In a relationship, when is honesty not the best policy? How do you balance what you want versus what you need? And is there something you need to say to your spouse but can't find the right way to say it? If so, then you're in the right place. This is the Lunch with Sandy podcast. With nearly 20 years of marriage under their belts, Terrance and Sandy Jackson discuss a range of topics, provide valuable insights on relationships, and talk about the conversations married couples need to have. So what does lunch have to do with all of this? Well, it's a metaphor for how these conversations originally started. Speaking of conversations, let's get one going. Here's your hosts, Terrance and Sandy.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Lunch with Sandy podcast, where we discuss various topics and offer insights from the perspective of two individuals who've been married for a very long time. I'm Terrance.
And I'm Sandy.
And today we're going to be discussing Computer Love. Not the song from Zapp and Roger, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, it is time for us to get a little insight into
Jax.
How Sandy is doing today. Sandy, what it do, what it be?
Today I am utterly flabbergasted with Ayla telling us that she doesn't want to miss a week of school so we can go on vacation. Like, what child doesn't want to miss school?
That is the longest answer
You're
you
welcome.
have given when asked that question on any one of these episodes. I'm not flabbergasted because it's not close enough for me to worry about that. And when that time comes, we'll deal with that then. Right now, though, it is time to shine the light on a person, place, or thing. And today we're going to shine the light on just the holidays in general.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought it was my 2 full pull-ups.
No, it wasn't going to be your 2 full pull-ups. When you get to 4, then maybe we'll shine the light on it. Listen, you got to be at least approaching 5.
What
but
did
anyway,
you call them
it's
before
ups.
Yeah.
Ups.
So
and
I had 3 ups. Now I'm up to 2 pull-ups.
I haven't verified that you're actually doing pull-ups yet because I haven't seen them. But anyway, it's that time of season already. The year has flown by. We're right in that sweet spot of Halloween just ended. Thanksgiving is approaching. Christmas is right around the corner. So the holiday season is in the air. And so that's what I wanted to shine a light on. Go ahead.
I'll shine the light on something. We were at the store the other day and it was like all these Christmas things. And then poor Hanukkah had such a small space. I feel like our Jewish friends need more.
I shone the light on holidays. The holidays.
I know.
All the holidays.
I know. I'm just saying. Shining the
Why
light
are you calling them out?
No, I feel like stores need to put more time and effort into.
Maybe it's just the stores that you go to. Maybe you got to pick different stores. Maybe it's about you going to all these stores that don't represent all the people and their cultures and their holidays. Stop going to those stores. Pick the right stores. Anywho.
The average amount of department stores.
Yeah. So I was up this morning, as I am early every day, and I turned on the TV after taking Jax outside, and you know what was playing, and I didn't realize that it played this early in the morning? 90 Day Fiancé. Now, I say that because for the most part, most of these people are meeting online. Technology has changed us in so many ways, and the way we interact with others is no exception. You know, online dating is so prominent in, you know, the way that so many people are coming together today. Much more prominent than it ever was before. There was a study that showed that over 40% of heterosexual relationships start online. And I say heterosexual because the other types of relationships, those numbers were vastly higher than that. The crazy part is it's not as if online dating just started. I mean, online dating has been around since the 90s. I mean, I think the first
chat rooms.
Well,
Was that technically
Match.com was the first. AOL chat rooms are just where people just go in and just, Match.com was an official. It was an official site where they actually, started bringing these people together. So the thing that is different between the online dating and dating when you come into contact with people at all these different social events or activities is you don't really get to know the person. Mm-hmm. Well, let me take a step back. There are challenges to getting to know who it is that you're interacting with. Mm-hmm. And although I haven't had that experience, I do think that we have the opportunity.
I sure hope not.
Excuse me. I do think we have the opportunity to explore some of the issues, concerns, or some of the process that should be taken when we get to, when someone gets into that position. But before we do that, mm-hmm. I want to have a little discussion on why it seems that number, that percentage of individuals who are now going the route of the online dating has increased.
Well, for starters, you're, for lack of a better term, broadening your horizons. Where you're subject to your small populace. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear
you know what I mean? Like, okay, these are the people I naturally just hang around with.
The pool of availability is much wider.
Yeah,
right?
That was better said.
But I think before that, right, I think the biggest reason is traditionally, when you went against the norm in the past, particularly when we were young, it was frowned upon. Mm-hmm. Now, there's no longer a stigma attached to things like online dating. There's still a stigma attached to certain things, but online dating is almost like a norm now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And because that stigma is not as frowned upon or doesn't exist, you're right. The opportunities, the availability, that pool becomes that much larger because it's not just those people who you are around on a day-to-day basis. You have access to the world.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny, and it makes me wonder how many people were using online dating sites but didn't admit to it.
Well, and listen, and that's a valid question. That's a valid question. Mm-hmm. Because again, remember, it was always.
Don't tell anybody how we actually met.
Well, think about it. If you go back, let's say 10 years, 15 years. What's wrong with you? Why do you have to try to find somebody online? You can't find a nice person at your church or a nice person at your job or the bar. It was always frowned upon, and that's just simply not the case. I have to make sure that I point out that, and I've said this before, as these younger generations have been much more accepting of not just people but ideas and willing to take specific risks that older generations did not do. And I think that's one of the reasons why the opportunity for something like online dating to increase to where it is now.
I think it's just, I don't know if it's human nature or what. We start questioning things that, we don't know enough about. And it's like, always on the fence. Like, I don't know if it's a good idea or not.
But it's the norm now.
But it is.
Yeah. And I think another part of that too is convenience. Think about this.
Yeah.
Think about this. Mm-hmm. When you were going on a date in your heyday, think about it. You had to figure out what it is you were going to wear, where you were going to go. Mm-hmm. You had to do your hair, do your face. You had to do all of this stuff. Think about
Likewise.
Online.
Do your hair.
My hair was always crisp. But listen, it's not that you don't have to do some of that stuff, but it's less time consuming because whether it's through an app on your phone or on your computer, you pop that puppy on and you're ready to go.
Well, to me, it's like, I feel like online dating almost switches the priorities. Like, I don't know. I feel like when you meet somebody face to face in person, your initial take to them is automatically just how they look. Right. And not that this doesn't happen in online dating, like, you know what I mean? Swipe right, swipe left, whatever it is. But you can also read some of the profile. So it's not like when you're meeting somebody in person that you're holding up a sign and being like, I like romantic walks on the beach.
Here's the thing. That's true. But here's the thing. Here's possibly one of the reasons why it has become so popular. You can create your best version of yourself and put it out there. So when you're creating your profile, you're not going to say, hey, I suck. And it's not that you're not telling the truth, but again, you know, that first impression, you dictate what that first impression is because you have the opportunity to craft your profile to make it more appealing or as appealing as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
So you might be a person who gets nervous when you first meet somebody.
That's where I was kind of going.
Yeah.
Right.
And
like you have to talk to them when you're face to face, where at least if you have an online profile, you've already kind of thought about it. Like, this is what essentially I am and what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And people can actually just read that as well. And that's more than just the physical picture, right? Like you get a little bit more in depth than when you're meeting them up front in person.
Yeah, it makes it more approachable. People are more approachable because now, again, the first part of this is you're just looking at somebody's profile.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing that's going to be or give you a negative effect just from looking at someone's profile. You look at it, and again, like you said, either you swipe right or you swipe left, or I don't know.
It's one of the ways. I just don't remember which is which is good, which is bad.
So the fact that it's much more appealing. I'm going to use the term appealing because I don't know any other word. I do know it's much more acceptable to do this. That plays a role in the number of people who are actually taking advantage of the online dating pool.
Yeah.
It has an effect on it. So there are some concerns, or there are some things that you should do, and there's some things that you shouldn't do when we talk about getting into the world of online dating. So I want to give some people who may not have done this or are in the process of doing this some advice, although I've done it myself. I've never done it myself, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night. And this is just some common stuff, right? So when you start talking about getting into online dating, you know, you want to make sure that, and I don't know why the TV show Catfish just popped in my head, but for a good reason. You want to make sure that when you start to create your profile, you're authentic and you're honest. You got to be honest about yourself, and you got to be honest about your interests, but more importantly, your intentions. Because now there are some dating apps out there where it's not so much of dating.
About dating.
It's more, you know,
hooking up.
Let's hook up. So if you're going to go that route, you should be authentic. You should be honest, not just about yourself, but also what your intention is on whatever platform it is that you're actually on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like, you know what? If that's what you care about is hooking up, like, just be honest.
Be upfront.
because I'm sure there's going to be people who will take you up on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
exactly.
No need to lie about it.
And the second part about that being authentic piece, listen, use a quality photo, but more importantly, an up-to-date photo. Don't go putting your high school photo in there. You're like, you're 30, 40 years old. Even if you're 25, a current picture, one that is of a particular quality so people can actually see who you are.
Right. Without all the crazy filters.
Exactly. Listen, take the filters off.
To the point earlier, right? Like, when we would meet in person, it's automatically your physical appearance, right? That captures the moment and it's still same in the digital world. So, it's good to have, like you said, a nice photo. Like, you don't have to use your crappiest photo that's on your phone. Like, use one that you like of yourself. But like you said, be authentic. Have, eliminate the filters.
Yeah, I look at the photo from one or two ways. But first, in back in the day, physically, there was a particular filter that you can use when you're meeting someone physically. And I'm going to tell you what the filter
Alcohol.
was. It's alcohol and the dark corner of the club. Those two filters sometimes will get you in a mess. But anyway.
Well, listen, you want somebody to like you for you. So you know what? Use that picture first thing you wake up in the morning.
Look, I'm of two minds when you start talking about the picture, right? I don't think you should use a filter up picture.
I agree.
You can go two ways when you start talking about the picture. Mm-hmm. You can just go base and say, hey, listen, here's the base.
Yeah.
Right? And from the base can say, this is what you're getting at the worst.
Right.
You know
That's
what I mean?
Like, use that first one.
This is what you're getting at the worst.
First picture when you wake up.
And so, at worst, this is what you're going to get. Now, I'm not saying first thing you wake up. I'm saying, look, when I get up, I brush my teeth, I comb my hair, whatever.
It's a picture. Is what I am. They can't capture your halitosis in the picture.
Sometimes it's so bad you can see it. Anyway,
no, that's so bad.
You can go base and say, hey, listen, this is what you're going to get at the least. You can go mid, saying, hey, listen, you know what? When I step out, you know what I mean, and then you can go outrageous where this just ain't you. You had all these filters, all this work done, and whatever it is, and that's the route that you want to kind of stay away from.
Well, honestly, I don't know what I would have done in my 20s, but I think today I would just be like, listen, this is me.
Yeah.
Like, right? I don't feel like I'm very, very photogenic to begin with, so I'm just going to throw a picture out there.
A picture of you just finished eating something and someone called your name and you're like looking like a serial killer.
It wouldn't be like the worst picture,
yeah.
But it would be just what I think is like my average face. Because then when you meet me in person and I clean up nice.
Clean up.
Like, that's just a bonus now, right?
So people, make sure you leave some room to grow. That's what it is. Don't try to go all out where it's not you, and then they see you and you're like, oh god damn, this is not the person who you don't look nothing like what it is in your picture. So just leave some room to grow. Mm-hmm. The other part about making sure that you do the most you can to be as successful as possible when you start talking about the world of online dating is you got to put time into crafting your bio. You just can't slap something up there and
be
say,
like, yo, this is me.
Yeah. You want to make sure that, your bio reflects who you are and what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Because again, otherwise, you might not get anywhere close to what it is that you're looking for.
Well, to your point, right? Like, one of the benefits of online dating is convenience. So if you're not being honest with your bio, right, and like what you're looking for, that convenience factor is going to decrease because you might be getting
a bunch of lefts or rights. I don't know which one.
Right, like you might be getting hits on, for people that aren't in line with what you're actually like looking
100%,
for.
yeah.
So if you're not authentic there, you're going to waste your time. Like, if you're really trying to find a relationship with somebody that you connect with and that you have common goals and stuff like that, if you're going to just be given like just a whole bunch of stuff, like where does the convenience factor
that you
go?
have to actually weed through? Yeah, that's not very convenient. The other thing that you want to make sure you do, and we talked about how the world of online dating makes things more approachable. Initiate conversations. If you find somebody who you feel is going to be a match, you ain't got to wait. Mm-hmm. Initiate the conversation. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
You got to be willing to take a little bit of a risk when you're talking about finding that someone in the digital love landscape that's going to meet up with whatever your expectations are. You like that digital love landscape?
Yeah. Right. That, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation with somebody, because to me, it makes me think about even working. And when I started working at a younger age, I thought that I wanted this, right? Like I thought I wanted this job, right? Or that job. When I recognized that it wasn't a particular job that I wanted, it was particular things that job afforded me and allowed me to do. So I think it's kind of similar in the dating aspect.
Well,
too.
and the other thing that initiating conversation does, it lets you know whether or not that person is authentic to what they're actually putting in their profile or what they're saying.
Well, not for nothing. Like you can have a great pic, you can have a great bio, but if I can't have a conversation with you, I'm sorry. It's not going to work out.
Listen, that depends on what your intentions are.
You might look good. You might say the right things, but,
Some people don't have the intention of having a conversation.
every other word out your mouth is and that would just be like nails on a chalkboard to me.
Anyway, I think the last thing that I'm going to say is when you start talking about getting into online dating and going through this process, you got to be patient. I think that as a society, we lack so much patience when it comes to certain things. Everything is now.
Especially in this day and age.
Yeah. And the problem with that is either you're going to pick something just because you're in a rush and it's not going to meet your expectations, and that match or whatever they call it is not going to be all it should be or all it could be.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to take yourself out of the game because you don't feel that you're getting enough hits or you're meeting the actual right people. Everything takes time. Whatever the recipe is, when you got to put it on the stove or put it in the oven, there's an amount of time that it takes for it actually to bake, cook, or whatever. And you need to be patient.
Oh, for sure. And I think especially us here in the U.S., we have lost all patience in this day and age. We just move faster. Like, think about how long it would take a computer to connect to the internet when we first started, on computers versus now. It's like, okay, it's been 5 seconds. Why?
Yeah.
Why can I not?
The dial-up days.
Right?
This younger society don't know nothing
they know
about
nothing
that.
about that, cell phone versus rotary phone. Having to go to the brick and mortar stores versus Amazon Prime.
There were some iterations between the rotary phone and the cell phone.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, but for those of us who remember what it took to dial a damn number with a rotary phone, God forbid you make a mistake and have to start all over again.
Yeah.
I feel like, and honestly, even those of us who grew up with more patience back in the day, even now I feel like I don't really have the same amount of patience. Like, what? It's going to take 5 days for the shipping to get here?
That's because you're stuck on Amazon. Half the time, if it's not on Amazon, I don't look at the shipping. It's just going to get here when it gets here. That's why, from the perspective of being prepared, when you're going a different route, you got to make sure you're prepared. Anyway.
Well, right. But to the whole point, lo and behold, to the point, which is, we have to learn patience again as a culture and a society. Because you're right. Not everything is instantaneous.
Yes. So be patient. Now, as convenient as online dating can be and as approachable, it offers the opportunity for you to be when it comes to connecting with someone, there are some things that you should not do and you have to be wary of.
Right. Well,
The
said the whole catfish thing.
Well, yeah, the first thing is don't lie. Mm-hmm. You're only going to put yourself in a situation where you now have to deal with the lie that you actually stated. You got to be honest. You want to be, it's better to be upfront with who you are and what you want. And you state your intentions. If listen, if you're not trying to find a soulmate and you're just trying to find someone to mate with, be upfront. State your intentions. The world, listen.
That's a great bio. Not looking for a soulmate.
There are so many different people out there. You're not going to find it difficult to find what it is that you're actually looking for when you're looking for it.
Agreed.
And not lastly, the other thing you want, and this is important. So one thing that you want to make sure that you don't do is
give them money.
Well, I'm not giving anybody any money, but you don't want to overshare too soon. Honesty is important, but at the same time, if you give too much personal information too soon, and that person who you're communicating with really ain't the person who they claim to be, now you're in a situation where you have to be concerned because you've given out more information than you should have, and now they may have means of reaching out to you in other aspects of your life because of that information that you actually shared.
Well, that and then the typical of scaring off. Like, there's nothing wrong with being true to yourself, but not sharing every single
I killed 3 people yesterday.
that goes through your head.
You want to wait a while before you say something like that.
Sometimes a little bit of silence and intrigue is good.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? The other thing, too, is it's hard for people when I'm not going to use the word rejected, but I'm going to use rejected. Mm-hmm. It's hard for people to accept that someone may not be interested in who they are. You got to respect the boundaries of those individuals because, again, not everything is for everyone.
Yeah.
And you're taking this approach and you're putting yourself out there, and I get that. But be mindful of there are going to be people out there who have different tastes, different beliefs, and are in this for different reasons that may not accept your swipe regardless of which direction it actually is. So you got to respect that and respect people's boundaries.
Well, right. That's just normal, right? It's society behavior. You're not going to get along with everybody. And then also, like this person might sound great, like digitally, but maybe there's just not a connection.
True.
Like, you know, like why you can't fault them for that. It's just think of people who've dated and then decided to end their relationship because they knew that something was missing. Because what's missing is that person who's really for you, that's going to accept everything about you. Yeah.
And lastly, and this is very, very important, for the most part, online dating is generally safe, but you do need to be cautious. When you start talking about, okay, you're moving from having a conversation with someone online to actually meeting them, you want to make sure that you do everything that you possibly can to ensure your safety. And when I say that, what I mean is, make sure you meet in a public place. Make sure that when you're going to meet somebody knows where you're going and who you're actually meeting with. And this might sound like, something that you shouldn't be concerned with. But again, there are people who love to take advantage of individuals. Yeah. And they're out there. Not everyone is like that. I'm not trying to scare anyone away from going out there and exploring what it is to be part of the online dating world. But you got to think about this, not just from the online dating piece, but from dating in general. You need to make sure you're going to be safe and whatever it takes to ensure that, when you make that connection, you're safe. You should be actually doing. And in addition to that, we talked about making sure that you're authentic and you're upfront. Those profiles, make sure you're working with someone who has a verified profile. Yeah. It sounds like a no-brainer, but sometimes the things that are right in front of your face, you tend to actually skip over.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between being pessimistic and realistic. Pessimistic is, everybody is, horrible and they're, don't have good intentions. But then there's being realistic, which is you give people a chance, but also realize that there are those people that are out there. So why put yourself in the position that, you could then not be happy.
Yeah. Listen,
afterwards.
They've been saying it for years.
Yeah.
Better safe than sorry.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want to be in a situation where shoulda, woulda, coulda, and now you can't. So ultimately, just make sure that you do whatever it is to make sure that you're safe. And I know I said make sure that 2 times, now that's 3 times to make sure that you're actually safe.
Well, it's no different than what we taught our older daughters growing up, like, right, keep your drink covered, like all those steps. And it wasn't to scare them from ever, going out and experiencing. It was about making sure that you're safe and protected. Right, exactly. It's about just taking the steps to just, kind of give yourself an advantage and making sure you don't put yourself in a position that you're going to regret later. Yeah.
One of the things that we're going to have to do, and I got to get better at this because there was a number of people who I was supposed to have on this podcast and I haven't gotten around to it yet. I don't know if I know anyone who has come together through the use of an online dating app, but it would be great to get perspective from them as far as where they are. How did they know that individual was the one for them, and how did they navigate trying to make a connection through
just
equipment?
Their experience all together. Like how many bad apples did you have to weed through till you got through one? And like what were the steps that you took to take it from the digital format into a personal format?
True. We talked about, there was once a time where your chances of meeting someone was limited to whatever social activity, event, or friend you had at the time. Now you can meet someone anywhere in the world through the click of a button. With all these dating apps, opportunities exist out there for you to find your soulmate. And when I say mate, soulmate is one word, not that whole mate situation. Online dating has changed the landscape when you talk about dating, and I'm just waiting to see what it will evolve into. I had this funny thought, and this may actually come to pass. We might get to a point where online dating is all digital. And by that, what I mean is, you see, I got the VR app over here. We might get to a point where you meet someone online and now you're using VR to actually go on actual dates.
Hey, if I'm dating someone on the other side of the country.
Talk about convenience. Now, the challenge with that is going to be also too, listen, you can make your avatar look like whatever.
Yeah.
But I think now it comes down to, doing your due diligence to make sure that you're the person you're connecting with, who they are, and that they are the person who you expect them to be. Now, that being said, let's get into the weekly reflection. This week, I want to make a point to make sure that we all understand that self-care isn't selfish. By that, what I mean is you need to take the time to treat yourself and to make sure that you are good. That allows you to be able to support, show kindness, and provide for those individuals around you. So don't feel bad when you need to take the time to care for yourself. Caring for yourself is the only way that it's going to allow you to be able to care for others.
Definitely.
That's all for this episode. Please feel free to leave feedback on your favorite podcasting app. Thank you for listening.
That's it for this week's episode of the Lunch with Sandy podcast. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your feedback and comments on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Lunch with Sandy. And be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate and review us. Thanks again for listening to the Lunch with Sandy podcast.